Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have another video from Mr. Tobero. And if you're not familiar with some of our previous coverages of this guy's content, we did have a video about 3 months ago talking about how I perceived Enfield Doom posting being a little bit out of control. Because one thing for certain about Arknights Endfield is that it's gone through a lot of changes, right? Throughout its alpha and beta tests to incorporate a lot more action-related mechanics, being a bit more of a far cry away from the original. I think it was a bit more of like a tactical RPG, like Final Fantasy XII sort of gameplay from its earlier alpha tests. I assume they got the feedback that everyone thought it was kind of dog shit and they didn't want to play it, so they changed it to be more action-oriented. And I viewed this video, right, as, you know, it was very much like an open critique, talking about the changes from the alpha to the beta, about how things that people didn't like were changed into things that people would like. And I viewed somebody overly critiquing those changes as a little bit of doom posting, right? It's like, I think of the people in Wuthering Waves that were complaining about how the story from CBT1 wasn't maintained in the release of the game. The story from CBT1 where, like, Chisha immediately tries to Glock Rover in, like, the first 5 minutes of the game. People were like, yeah, I don't really find it very fun to be immediately attacked by playable characters the second I start the game. Can you change that, Kuro Games? And then Kuro did it, and now Wuthering Waves is pretty much the best gacha on the market, right? It turns out listening to players and listening to feedback is something that helps the games thrive, and I viewed a lot of this as, hey, just fuck the feedback. Let's just trust the developers with everything. And then you end up with Hoyoverse Games. And I was just like, hey, I think this video is a little bit weird. And so now we have a bit of a follow-up to it 3 months later, and this one's about how we, the audience, are the problem, and the focus over here is going to be on the Enfield dodge system, which was heavily featured in this video. And let's just be honest here, guy had a bit of a crash out.
By the way, there is Girls Frontline 2 for a more top-down strategic approach.
He basically started reading feedback from people on, like, the closed beta test Discord and started, like, screaming because they dared say they want the dodge to be improved or be more like action games. So that's just some context for this one. Let's get right on into it and see what it's all about.
The power of language comes from rules and restraints, not from arbitrary imagination. Only by imposing constraints upon yourself can you make progress in the incantation arts.
3 months ago, I dropped a nuclear bomb on the Arknights Endfield community titled The Death Knell of Gacha Games, in which I decried their homogenization in the name of appealing to the masses, complete with deranged yelling at said masses.
Don't lie to me!
While everyone understands
I'm glad there's open recognition of it. Hey, this is what we call character development, ladies and gentlemen.
the need for gacha games to make money, the vast majority of people agree the combat is far too disconnected from the base, that Genshin-like homogeneity would be a disaster, and that hypergriff need to be true to their roots. However, the universal divide was the call to remove the dodge. Some agreed with removing it, some said just make it more strategic, some said remove the iframes, some said tie it to a factory item, and this guy decided I'm gay. But after being posted to Bilibili, it then spread further into other forums and became so divisive that some of those forums started arguing about the dodge button and whether the game should lean more into strategy or action, to the point where one content creator even made a response video because those arguments were getting out of hand. So, having briefly divided the community into warring factions, I will now attempt to do it again. I will now explain why the dodge button is a mistake beyond simply pointing a finger at those who want to keep it.
I'm sure the developers appreciate this being the main discourse about their game. Hey, by the way, devs, you're exceptionally retarded for trying to innovate and make the game better. You guys are a bunch of fucking bums. Because isn't that kind of like the end result? Hey, all this effort that you put into changing the game from the alpha to the beta test, which is, you know, the beta is really close to, like, the final version. Yeah, it's a complete waste of fucking time. I'm sure that's greatly appreciated. And that being the main discourse surrounding the game as it gets closer and closer to release.
In order to do that, we first need to look at how a few of the criticisms of combat in the technical test were addressed in the beta. Not all of them, just the relevant ones. This will be brief. The most common complaint was the slow pace and long downtime, which was addressed by what is essentially a total rework of the combat loop. Two of the most noticeable changes are the bullet time targeting being removed in favor of a lock-on system, and healing items being used automatically with per-operator cooldowns instead of having to bring up a sub-menu to choose who to heal. Previously, it was only limited by one operator at a time getting the heal with one cooldown for the squad, but now that it's automatic per operator, there's a limited number of charges on it while in battle. Perhaps the most important change, though, is the way skills work. That is, instead of each skill having an individual cooldown with the set number of uses required to charge your ultimate, skills now have no cooldowns at all and instead use a shared bar of SP, and you have to decide which character gets to use the SP you have.
They're making the game more simple to play. When you have a gacha audience, making the game more simple isn't necessarily the worst thing ever, because I'm pretty sure there's enough complexity that they're able to bake into the existing design. They clearly got the feedback that it was too complicated, and you want a blend of systems to make it so that, yes, you do have some of the advanced mechanics, some of the cool things, but you also don't want to get it to the point where it feels like you need a PhD to play the game as well.
There is also the addition of combo skills, and being able to trigger each operator's combo skill is the key to building good teams and the easiest way to get a general idea of how someone is meant to be used.
Honestly, that to me looked very snappy. It looked really fun. It looked also very satisfying to perform as well.
Plus, there was the issue of guaranteed attacks, which was addressed with the dodge button. Combine all these changes and the pacing of combat feels much faster. Right, now, where can we see how players felt about the... Oh. Players were clearly happy with some changes, considering all the praise and comparing it to the tech test, but nonetheless they were still not satisfied with the dodge, and they were not satisfied with the rate of SP generation. But unfortunately, much as they might insist otherwise, these complaints about dodges and SP are misguided, because dodging is not the root cause of the issue. It is virtually impossible to discuss dodging in video games without someone at some point bringing up Dark Souls, and endless comparisons to Souls-likes can get rather tiring. But in our case, we have good reason to. Lowlight, the creator of Arknight himself, is known to be a huge fan of Elden Ring, and he has already confirmed the existence of references to it in Endfield. So let's examine the role of dodging in Endfield by first seeing what we can learn from Elden Ring.
Oh boy. Hey, I'm pretty sure Solon likes pizza, guys. Let's make sure the next time we do some sort of analysis of Elden Ring waves, we talk about how pizza was made and how it was first constructed. And
From Software are known for their enemy and boss designs for a reason. Enemies hit hard and you are expected to die repeatedly. The game provides you with several ways to mitigate that damage. Armor and shields are abundant, vigor increases your HP, etc. However, the ultimate form of damage mitigation would of course be total invincibility, and oh look, how convenient. Dodge rolls provide an accessible and unlimited supply of short windows of invincibility known as iframes. However, there are two important things to remember here. Firstly, attacking and dodging both consume a set amount of stamina.
Yep.
You must spend the same resource both to deal and avoid damage. And secondly, in essence, you cannot cancel the animations for either of them, leaving you vulnerable for their duration.
No, you can cancel out of attacks. Wait, has this guy played Elden Ring? You can't? I'm pretty sure I have seen people backstep during their attack animation and do stuff like that.
As a result, you need to restrain yourself from dodging or attacking impulsively because the game is designed from the ground up to punish you for doing so. Delayed attacks and frame
You can't cancel it if you're in the middle. I'll take your guys' word for it because it's been years since I played Elden Ring.
traps teach you to dodge sparingly and with intention, and one of the key challenges presented by the fast pacing of endgame bosses is pushing the limits of your stamina management. The result is a flow state where every action is a carefully considered commitment. If you were able to cancel attacking and dodging animations, that commitment would disappear and the game's skill expression would become a matter of optimizing those animation cancels. That might be okay in other games when the creators intend it, but a fundamental part of Elden Ring's identity is not just difficulty, but discipline. And without the risk and reward created by the commitment of your actions, that identity would be compromised. It is precisely because the game presents you with such challenges that you are rewarded with those moments of unbridled ecstasy in overcoming them.
Come on.
Okay.
What? Yes!
I mean, I think it's a fair point. I think it's describing the mechanics of Elden Ring and sort of like the push and pull, the resource constraints, all of that. I think he's describing it pretty well.
Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go!
Holy shit, that was...
Now let's compare what we've learned from Elden
And I think bro's using his own footage, so clearly he can play the game. Now let's see how it relates to Arknights Endfield. And that's the real spicy part.
Ring with combat in Arknights Endfield. While the goal of an attack in Elden Ring is purely to deal damage, in Endfield some of the first things the game teaches you in the tutorials are that your basic attacks deal very little damage compared to skills, skill points regenerate very slowly, and the last hit in your basic attack sequence, the final strike, will restore SP. The game is telling us that SP purposefully regenerates slowly because it's your job as the player to obtain more of it. In other words, basic attacks are not meant purely for dealing damage, they are primarily a step in the process of dealing damage.
Okay.
You use basic...
The unfortunate part about what I'm beginning to hear and how the combat is designed is it feels like the combat systems between these two games are so fundamentally different in how you're supposed to deal damage, the flow of combat, like the kind of like the from to and what you need to do to beat encounters is like, I am now wondering how the fuck he is going to relate the two. I am now genuinely wondering how he is going to relate the two.
attacks to get SP with the final strike, which you then use to cast a skill which deals considerably more damage, which then triggers a chain of combo skills. You get the picture.
Okay.
Several combo skills are also triggered by a final strike, which is why you don't get SP from each individual normal attack, because it would make those combo skills very inefficient compared to those that aren't. Now, if you only have 1 bar of SP and you use it on a random skill that doesn't enable any combos or elemental inflictions, you'll then be left without much to do besides going and getting more SP.
Yep.
Consider also the example of Aviwenna. Her combo skill and her ultimate will...
So now the game has like a resource constraint where you're punished for button mashing and pressing random shit.
Place thunderbolts in the ground, and then with her battle skill, she retrieves those thunderbolts, dealing electric damage to everything in their path. But if you just use the skill aimlessly, all she does is a little jump and spin, which totally wastes the SP. Furthermore, consider the technical test's bullet time targeting, where every single skill cast forced you to make a decision because it was a 2-step process of selecting a skill and deciding a direction. You can see the pattern in what both versions of the game are asking of you. Endfield is trying to discourage carelessness while encouraging discipline and intent. And you can see that design goal throughout the game. The limit on the number of zipline towers you can have in a given region is meant to encourage you to be intentional with where you place them instead of just spamming them everywhere. Even the gacha system discourages you from just randomly pulling for no reason.
Oh god, not this thing again. Yes, guys, it's yep, this is the best gacha system ever. Yes, let's have a mechanic where your 120 pull pity can disappear into the abyss, because yes, I'm 99% sure there's not going to be a single casual player that's not going to get fucked in the ass by this. This is not something we should be praising, guys. This is a predatory system that, yes, on the surface might appear good or advantageous to some people, but it has such a large capability of completely ruining somebody that's like a casual player that's not like hyper optimizing their pulls on a fucking calendar basis. I don't care if it's statistically better. It has such a high possibility of absolutely ruining somebody that's just misinformed. It is such a crazy noob trap, it's ridiculous.
Recall how Elden Ring punishes the player for pressing buttons impulsively. Using the same resource both to
and if you're somebody that's saying good to that, you're the reason why. If the game dies, you'll be the reason why.
Deal and avoid damage, and animations being uncancelable, work together to set a deliberate pace. But Enfield's design contradicts itself. It wants you to be disciplined and intentional while simultaneously allowing you to just dodge at will. Notice how the resources for dealing and avoiding damage are separated. In order to get the resource for dealing damage, SP, you need to get a final strike. Doing so often means you will need to take damage. There is a good reason one of the main purposes of the factory is to produce healing items, and also that the main stat on every single piece of gear is defense, which in Endfield means final damage reduction. Meanwhile, your resource for avoiding damage is stamina. Dodging will consume 1 bar of stamina, and the game starts you off with 2. But once you've collected all the Aetherium, that increases to 6, and at that point you don't even need to think of it as a resource anymore, because in practice you just never run out of stamina to dodge. Which consequently means players do not have any expectation of restraint with the dodge button, nor of being willing to take damage. And in addition to that, every single attack and skill animation will be cancelled by dodging. The sole exception is Gilberta's Gravity Well, which is the only battle skill in the game that is in effect over a fixed duration, as opposed to a single instance of damage or an instantly applied buff. All of this combined tells us that Enfield's dodge exists in direct contradiction to the discipline and intentionality the game is trying to encourage.
So he's saying that the dodge button essentially is making the game too easy. Is that the take? That the dodge button is in effect taking away from the whole like sort of like self-punishment, like discipline, all of that kind of like, it almost sounds like BDSM almost. Like that's what he's like, like that part of the game.
It may well be possible to adjust it to complement their intended design goal, but if you are a beta tester who looked at the feedback section, you will have seen that in reality, the vast majority of players were asking for the opposite. More iframes, more SP, more rewarding, and so on and so forth. The astute observers among you might have figured out where this is going, but bear with me here, because remember, dodging is not the root cause of the issue. To take a very brief detour and give necessary context for an example I'm about to use.
Sounds like he just wants the game to be harder. That's what it sounds like to me. He wants the game to be harder and not essentially more rewarding, but more punishing.
In November, Arknights tried an experimental co-op game mode. Unfortunately, it took place a couple of weeks after the release of Wishadel, who was given the most ridiculous kit Hypogryph have ever made. Fans of Wishadel were naturally going to be inclined to use their shiny new win button, and so most of my co-op games consisted of my teammates deploying her, killing everything in sight, leaving absolutely nothing for me to do but sit on my ass and wait for it to be over because leaving early would put me on a matchmaking cooldown. To put it in other words, I had no agency. My teammates' use of Wishadel was preventing me from taking any action, and it was absolutely fucking miserable. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. Ark is an operator who deals a fixed amount of physical damage to an allied unit in return for a hefty buff, but...
So he started... Is he talking about how he was actively griefing his team? Is he actually going to get into him griefing his team?
Wishadel doesn't have enough defense to tank it. So I brought him to every game and immediately team killed every Wishadel I came across so that I could actually enjoy playing the co-op mode together with my teammate.
What's wrong with this guy? Wait, there's something not right in this guy's head. I'm going to be honest with you. There's something wrong with him. This to me has just made me believe I think he stopped maturing after the age of 12. This is like a COD Modern Warfare 2 lobby player that never mentally grew up. What the fuck? Wait, he's just actively talking about just griefing in co-op. Yeah, this is crazy shit. This is a crazy video.
So numerous were my Ark team kills that I decided to have a bit of fun with it by writing a song.
I'm taking matters into my own hands. This is my villain Ark. If none of you will let me play the game, I'll keep deploying Ark behind your dear beloved waifu Wishadel before I cast durian-flavored Stimpack resolutely up her ass.
Plenty of people were delighted with my mischievous musical merriment, including some Wishadel users themselves, as opposed to the Arknights subreddit, which banned me for 4 entire months.
I have to say, good job, Arknight subreddit. You managed to ban one of the most toxic people the game has probably ever seen. Probably should have just been permanent, if we're frankly being honest. I don't really know what to say other than it seems like this guy really prioritizes his own enjoyment over pretty much everybody else. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but this feels like oddly like sociopathic. Oddly sociopathic. Like he just prioritizes his own enjoyment, his own fun over literally everything, and will like rationalize and justify it to like such a high degree. Holy moly. Yeah, maybe the Arknights community should really stop taking this guy's takes particularly seriously. Maybe that would be something that would be like good for the community as a whole.
But while I will freely admit that yes, I was being a little bit insensitive, there were some comments on both the video and the Reddit post which elucidated a common point of view among those who were offended by it. Nearly all of them said something along the lines of, what if I don't care about the event? What if I want to just get the rewards and be done with it? It didn't matter to them that this was a cooperative game mode, and no matter how clearly it was explained to them that their use of Wishadel was preventing me from using anyone.
So you're gonna blame the other players because they have a life? They have other things that they're trying to do in the day? Like, wait, are we actually at the point where we're going to start openly critiquing people because they want to clear content fast so they can go ahead and do other things with their life in a gacha?
It just fell on deaf ears. They didn't even enjoy the game, they just wanted the rewards that came after it.
Or they might just not enjoy this game mode. They might like the game as a whole, but they don't maybe want to, I guess, or maybe they enjoy seeing their Wishadel pop off and destroy shit. And so what you're doing, because you want to play the co-op mode for longer, you decided to grief your team. What if your teammate's definition of having fun is to see their Wishadel pop off and destroy shit in this game mode? So it's okay for you to negate and sabotage someone else's fun, as long as you're prioritizing your own fun. It's okay, it's good. You can probably play this co-op mode with friends, right? You could probably add people to your friends list and just duo queue with them, right? Isn't this just an admission that you don't have any actual fucking friends to play with? I wonder why. Yeah, because you'd probably be able to just play co-op with friends instead of queuing up for random matchmaking and then team killing your opponent or team killing your teammate. Then again, we just saw all the reasoning for, you know, how he justified in his head the team killing he was doing. I guess it's not very surprising he doesn't have anybody on his fucking friends list to play with that, you know, hey, buddy, you want to play the new co-op in Arknights? Hey, I'm trying to play it for longer, so can you not bring your Wisido? Good God.
With zero consideration of how their actions might affect their teammates' experience.
With zero consideration about how their actions might impact their teammates' experience. You decided to queue up for random matchmaking, knowing that you could get paired up with people, decided to take matters into your own hands, and team kill your teammate's character, instead of just asking a friend to queue up and just not use that teammate, and to just not use that character. What? What's wrong with this guy? What the fuck? No wonder this guy has no friends to play with. That's not surprising to me.
With zero consideration of how their actions might affect their teammates' experience.
Guy is literally appealing to, like, actual 10-year-olds. Yeah, I understand that it's, like, low-key funny. This is, like, but still, this is, like, the fucking lowest common denominator, bro.
Now think about some of the complaints from the beta for a moment. Remember all those seemingly random requests for open-world mechanics like wall climbing and grappling hooks and stuff? They must be aware that a major part of the game is relaying power and building your own zip lines, right? The inspiration from Death Stranding should be pretty obvious. You get to choose where the ziplines go, but you have to set them up yourself.
Okay.
You can't just have them without building them. But all those requests for random open world shit exist because whether you realize it or not, you're asking for exactly that. You want what the ziplines provide without the responsibility of building them yourself.
Or you're somebody that prioritizes spending a whole lot of fucking time doing nothing, and you want everyone else to have the same suffering experience doing a whole lot of fucking nothing, and so you're shitting on people that want to have a more streamlined and fun game. Yeah, they need to have fun my way. It's my way. They need to have fun this way. They find this other feature. They like that other feature. They find it fun. That's not right because I don't like it. Oh, you know what? I see why I called this guy a fucking Doom poster. Yeah, I see. I remember why I called him a Doom poster. Yeah, it was the same exact fucking energy in this video. Yeah, it's the same photo.
Importing mechanics like grappling hooks and wall running and flying or whatever simply wouldn't work. The game is fundamentally not designed like that. It would completely trivialize every single terrain obstacle, and you'd then be left wondering why the world feels so much smaller. Because that constraint is not an oversight or a shortcoming, it is deliberate. Looking back to those earlier complaints from the beta about SP and dodging,
Yeah, who cares if it's deliberate? Everyone can say that it's deliberate, and it also feels fucking stupid. You wanna know what else was deliberate? Radahn's attacks in the release version of Elden Ring being almost impossible to fucking dodge because he had lingering hitboxes. That was deliberate. Remember Radahn from the start of Elden Ring? Yeah, his attacks had lingering hitboxes on his swords that made him one of the most ridiculous bosses in the game. It was deliberately done. But then the devs decided to change it because everyone said it was fucking cancerous to fight against. But wait, it's as long as it's deliberate by the devs in the first place, who cares, right? Brother acts like it's like, hey, first draft, we have to submit it. Hey, the original iteration, it has to, we gotta do it.
If you're performing final strikes, getting SP is very simple, or you can just use Arknight to make it easier. But the player is insisting on dodging even when the game is punishing them for doing so carelessly. And instead of making that connection and deciding not to dodge, they are just asking for more SP and easier dodges. You may have noticed a pattern here.
Probably because the game feels like shit when you're just tanking hits. Yeah, probably because they're recognizing, wow, yeah, it feels pretty stupid for me to just sit here and tank this hit.
At first, the root of the problem appears to be that gacha players do not want their actions to matter. Except, that's not actually the full picture. Plenty of gacha gamers are perfectly willing to accept those design goals in other games. It's not as if they're all just unteachable and refuse to take responsibility for their actions in every part of life. But it seems to be near universal when they're playing gacha games.
I don't even know what's going on anymore. It feels like this guy is actually unhinged.
And that is where the real root of the problem lies. gacha gamers have been taught their actions won't matter, and therefore, gacha gamers have come to expect
Huh?
their actions will not matter. The complaints from beta testers all stem from this root cause. Dodging when it's a bad move led to consequences, but your expectations are that dodging is never the wrong move.
You can literally dodge too much in games like Wuthering Waves and Zenless Zone Zero and even Genshin Impact. You're limited to 2 in a certain span of time, where if you mistime them by firing them off too early, you'll literally get hit with a massive attack and maybe die.
Pulling impulsively is always a bad.
Wait, what? We're just wrong. Wait, we're just straight up wrong. Bro, has bro never fought a Hikari difficulty 6 hologram? If you mismanage your stamina and your dodges in Hikari difficulty 6, you will die. You are 100% cooked. His examples from gacha games are like, they're not even valid. He's talking about all of these situations where it's like the decisions don't matter, but they do. The dodges in the gacha games, they do matter a lot. I think bro has never played a challenging Wuthering Waves content. He's never played actual challenging ZZZ content. And he's going around and he has like a pre-baked conception on what the fuck the dodge system actually is in those games. And he just assumes that because they're not Arknights Endfield, they're shit. And that they're just like fucking baby shit easy mode. Because of course, only the games that he plays and only the games that he enjoys could be considered complex or challenging. And all the other mainstream, and if the gacha game just happens to be mainstream, it must be some garbage slop that's not even slightly worth consuming. So he's not gonna stoop himself to the level of like bathing with the fucking mud folk to experience it himself and actually have a balanced take. What the fuck? This has to be some of the most cooked shit I've ever seen.
But because the rate of guarantee carries over only Hoyo games, your expectations are that doing so doesn't usually make a difference.
Bro's out here trying to justify why Enfield's gacha system, where 119 pulls can evaporate into thin air and produce literally nothing, is good.
Oh yeah, your players should be taught a lesson about discipline in the gacha.
Shut up! What the fuck? What kind of high horse do we have to like fucking stand on? What are we doing? Then again, this is the guy that openly brags about griefing his teammates in co-op. Yeah, what? We can't forget that. This is the guy that brags about griefing his teammates in co-op, prioritizes his fun over other people because he doesn't have a single fucking person on his friends list that wants to play with him. Yeah, he went ahead and decided to grief other people, team kill them, because he has no friends to play with. Of course. Then again, it's not surprising.
Setting up your own zip lines is a major part of the game, and not setting them up means you'll be walking everywhere, but your expectations are that of already having a plethora of locations to teleport to and of being able to fly around at will. Arknights Enfield's dodge button currently means
probably because nobody wants to go through the effort of being like, all right, well now I gotta go pick up this fucking zip line. Oh, I gotta go deconstruct it. Hey, let me go walk my ass over, spend 10 minutes across the overworld doing literally nothing just to set up this other zip line teleport. It's just people don't, we're out here critiquing people because they just happen to respect their time more than you do. I feel like Tobero really does not respect his own time at all very much. That's the thing. I think that he is just so accustomed to actual slop, wasted time, spending literally 5-10 minutes doing a whole lot of actually nothing. And he's like, whoa, if other people don't want to waste their fucking time like I do, they just must be low attention span mainstream gacha players. Good God.
deciding whether or not to dodge matters, but we saw earlier that players do not have any expectation of restraint because the stamina basically never runs out and the dodge lacks commitment. The commitment in the example of Elden Ring means you're punished for acting carelessly, and Elden Ring is known for that.
You want to know what an easy fix is to this whole dodge system that this guy just keeps batting around the bush for? Reduce the stamina that you have and add more of a reward for dodging. That's it. Limit the number of dodges you have to be less than what it currently is, and then increase the reward for dodging. That's really fucking it. Oh my, it's perfect, right? And fuck it, increase enemy aggressiveness too while you're at it. Make it so that you're expected to tank some hits, but then dodge the big ones. Add a fucking basic attack advance after a successful dodge, where if you dodge correctly, you advance your basic attack chain to a certain point, and so you get that skill point back faster. It's really just that simple.
Discipline is expected. Gacha games, on the other hand, are the opposite. They are known for having very few consequences. So when they introduce a consequence to something players aren't used to facing consequences for, it subverts their expectations of the game.
Or they experience the gameplay mechanic and it feels like fucking dog shit. It's boring, it's not fun, and the only people that could like it are those that are also the same sort of people that derive an immense amount of joy from team killing their fucking teammates' units.
The problem with gacha gamers is not a problem of commitment. The problem is that instead of reevaluating what their expectations are, they simply ask for the game to better match their expectations by removing those consequences. With Elden Ring, we saw that restraints on your agency create risk and reward, but when my co-op teammate prevented me from contributing, we saw that zero agency just creates frustration.
What kind of agency do you think you're providing for your teammate by killing their own unit? This guy, I cannot believe this guy would actually try to make any point off of this. You just killed their most well-invested unit for fun, and you're just like acting like you're the do-gooder in this situation. What a fucking weirdo. This guy 100% has never played a team sport in his life. I guarantee if he were to try to play any like sort of 5-on-5 team sort of sport, he would get beat up by his team, by his teammate. He would get beat up by his teammates.
The problem with the technical test was not the lack of a dodge, the problem was the lack of any agency in reacting to those attacks. Dodging is not the only solution to that lack of agency, but it is a popular one, which is why there were so many calls to implement it. But now with the beta, the problem is that dodging exists in contradiction to the discipline and intent they want.
If this guy played League of Legends, all 4 of his teammates would personally write a support ticket to Riot to get him banned. He would be a person that would get people, like get his entire team to actually go, like stop queuing up, go to the website and write out an actual support ticket.
To encourage. There are various solutions you could try to make the dodge actually complement the combat system, like basic attacks slowly reducing your stamina and only recharging it once you stop attacking, but that wouldn't solve the issue because dodging would still interrupt your basic attack sequence, so you'd still need to take damage to get SP, so gacha players would still complain. And if dodging didn't reset the sequence, combat would simply be reduced to a matter of optimizing animation cancels and memorizing optimal rotations, and the game's identity is compromised.
Wait. So dodging, not interrupting an animation would suddenly turn it into animation canceling and optimizing rotations, as opposed to what? Like what is fundamentally how does that change anything from the current gameplay loop? Oh yes, you have to press the buttons and use the abilities in the right order to deal the most damage. That's every game ever created. Every game ever has an optimal rotation and optimal pressing of buttons to deal the most damage.
The call to remove the dodge is not a call to bring back the guaranteed attack to the technical test, it is a call to change what that agency looks like. It doesn't need to be a reflexive dodge or parry button. Removing the dodge is an immediate way to force the player to reevaluate their expectations from the very start. Because if the controls and inputs do not let you dodge impulsively, then you have to reconsider how you're going to mitigate damage, which forces you to appropriately adjust your expectations of the game.
So he just wants a removal of the dodge button, everyone just tanks attacks? Just turn the game into a fucking turn-based game then, who cares? What's the point of moving around? Just turn it into a turn-based game.
That response video from Billy I mentioned at the start of the video makes a very good point related to this problem of expectations.
What is the point of this game even having like any components to it if you're not going to be able to dodge? You're just going to tank every attack.
在我看来啊，相比于优化闪避的呼声，要求蓝图的声音可能还要更大。这些人可不会在要求蓝图的言论中拿那几个游戏给自己套盾。抄作业比起亲力亲为的闪避，才是最快捷、迅速删除掉一个玩法乐趣的东西吧。那为什么有那么多人对蓝图抄作业有需求？就是因为许多人他就是抱着吃快餐的心态去玩 gacha 的。
He's absolutely right in saying that blueprints would be an atrocious idea, and if they'd been present in the beta, the Death Knell video would be sunshine and rainbows compared to the doom posting I'd be doing in that timeline. But what I think his point of view misses is the fact
He's talking about blueprints so that people can just, like, avoid the base building part. So that they can just, like, take, like, what somebody else made and just be able to make it. Because they don't want to be bothered with, like, whatever the fuck this base building system is. Oh, okay, so, yeah. I mean, at this point, it's kind of just, like... Hey, man, Arknights Endfield looks really cool. I like all the characters. The combat also looks pretty fun, too. Oh, I have to spend 15 hours playing Factorio, which I don't actually like playing, in order to actually enjoy this game. Okay, I'm not going to play it. Bye. I was about to spend $2,000 over the course of 3 months because I like the characters, but because I have to play this fucking base building mode a lot, I'm just not going to play it now. Alright, bye money.
fact that with Arknights, Hypergryph have been consistently reluctant to add any features that could be considered as the game playing itself or making decisions for you. It has never once had an autoplay button. You have to choose where to deploy your operators and when to activate their skills yourself, and only then do you get to auto-deploy. Likewise, in Endfield, their way of addressing the complaints about the factory was not to add blueprints, but instead to add loads of tutorials and a more intuitive top-down interface. The core design philosophy of do-it-yourself remains just as clear, which is why
This game's not going to be able to maintain the cost of its development if it stays like this. I'm just going to be real here. The game is not going to be able to maintain the cost of its development if it has this on release. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't think pre-made blueprints will be added anytime soon, let alone the ability to copy them from other players. But nonetheless, he is right. Those demands for blueprints will grow louder and louder because gacha players only want to eat fast food. The meal without the responsibility of cooking it.
What responsibility? Yes, they don't. They want the game to feel like a game. They want the game to feel like a game, not like fucking work. Oh, the horror. The game feels like a game. The game doesn't feel like a chore. Oh, Oh!
And to build on the analogy further, fast food might be convenient and tasty, but if you grow accustomed to it, serious health implications aside.
I guess he's implying that all these other gacha games are like fast food, and so they just inherently must be lower quality. While Arknights, on the other hand, is the premier gaming experience. The one where you can openly grief your teammates in co-op modes.
Cooking your own food will start to feel like a chore.
This guy is just such a player blamer, bro.
Hypergryph have said they consider the infrastructure and automation to be the focus of the game, explicitly citing games like Factorio and Dyson Sphere Program as successful examples. But those games have an innate filter in having an upfront cost. Free-to-play gacha games do not have that barrier to entry, and they are surrounded by this bizarre culture of people playing multiple games they may not even like playing, while simultaneously demanding those games make it easier for them to maintain their account.
No, what it means is that people that are playing shit like Factorio and Dyson Sphere know what they're getting themselves into because that factory gameplay is the only thing in those fucking games. While Arknights Endfield clearly has a huge RPG fucking character collecting component to it, and the factory can be viewed as just fucking unnecessary management that they don't want to fucking do, even if they want to play 90% of the rest of the game. And by having it be this needlessly complex and this convoluted, then the people that would play the game for its other great components, like its amazing character design, world, combat, all of that, will simply not fucking play it because of this one little thing that you actual little bitches are being so stubborn about keeping complex, because you feel some sort of need to feel like a level of elitism over other gacha game players. It's cringe, it's pathetic, it's ridiculous. Like, imagine having so much of like your self-worth and value tied to an annoying process in a video game, and like insisting that it not be changed because otherwise that self-worth and value would disappear. Oh wait, this is the same person that team kills in co-op. Everything is explained.
In my years of playing Arknights, I have seen what Hypergryph can cook. They are not afraid to experiment, but it would be delusional to say they have never faltered before. If the game wants gacha players to enjoy the base, they need to change their expectations of the game, and they will not do that unless the game forces them to. If anyone is capable of squaring this circle of sticking to their guns while maintaining mass appeal, it is Hypergryph. But accessibility must not undermine identity. Arknights Endfield advertises itself as a real-time 3D RPG with strategic elements, and in China as a 3D real-time strategy RPG. Personally, I just think the gameplay should lean more into that. After the technical test, I hoped it would be slow, calculated, and stubborn, but Hypergryph made it fast, impulsive, and forgiving.
Because the combat looks like a fucking chore, and clearly, Hypergryph making these changes means that they want to appeal to the widest audience possible. because this game looks expensive to make. And so if they continue appealing to a niche fucking audience, then they likely won't be able to cover the technical development costs of this game. And so that's why they decided to make it more open worldy, more action RPG-y.
That doesn't mean I think games with dodging are bad. But I have seen other communities become jaded, only able to sit and watch the obliviating drift of their beloved games towards an audience that has never cared. I have watched longtime fans of Monster Hunter resent the direction of Monster Hunter Wilds, ditching the necessity of positioning, anticipation, and commitment in favor of hitting a piñata that barely fights back, removing so many of those decisions and just going straight to the outcome because gamers don't understand why that decision was there in the first place. I have watched so many Endfield alpha and beta testers openly demonstrate they have precisely zero understanding of why some features and mechanics simply wouldn't work in Endfield, only able to draw upon experiences from some combination of Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zelda Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves, end of list. Openly stating they have no interest in the Arknights IP whatsoever and just want yet another iteration of the same game while consistently pretending to care about the game's success.
Hey guys, and remember, if the feedback isn't coming from fucking Toblerone, hey, it must be illegitimate. Yeah, because Toblerone, the guy who openly admits to team killing his teammates' units to only optimize his own fun and his own enjoyment of the game, should speak on behalf of the community.
You might have heard a quote attributed to one of the lead designers of the Civ series that gamers will optimize the fun out of a game if given the option to, even if it ruins their experience of the game. But no other subculture of video games, not a single one, will not only ask for that option before the game is even out, but openly ask for the literal backbone of the game to be removed, just because they don't personally like it.
Implying that base building is the backbone of an action RPG game is one of the most retarded things I've ever heard.
You open Balatro and complain about deck building? You open Portal and complain about solving puzzles?
No, because base building is clearly not the backbone of Arknights Endfield, and to insist that it is has to be one of the most bullshit, stupid fucking takes I've ever heard in my life.
If you complain that modern games don't try anything new, then shame them for doing so while rewarding the opposite. I hate to break this to you, but you are the problem. And if you start playing Arknights Endfield and you complain about the infrastructure and the factory, the very things that make it Arknights Endfield...
Nope, they're not. They're not.
That applies to you! Just make everything Genshin Impact! Big game always means better game! I'm not seeing enough movement! Put more shit on the screen! More big numbers! More random colors! More stupid bullshit! What is this depth you speak of? Aura farming's the only gameplay that matters. Just make my waifu look cool when I press E and Q and take my money! Look at how cool the animation is! Time to build pity! Let's go gambling! Please win? No save! Only win! What do you mean building pity isn't a thing? All my friends build pity, obviously it's a thing, you fucking idiot! What is this Factorio shit? I don't have that kind of autism. I have the kind with no self-awareness or social skills whatsoever. Wow, chat! Look! Boo!
Did he just say that anyone that doesn't like Factorio is autistic?
Absolute cinema! Take all my money! What do you mean they slightly reduced Nicole's boob size? What do you mean I can't see Cantarella's Calto anymore? This is preposterous! The Chinese Communist Party won't let me masturbate! Video game? What the fuck is one of those? Just make it easier to maintain my account so I can continue to not play the games I've built my entire personality around.
It's so ironic for him to call out this whole idea of people playing games that they built their personality around. This guy seems to have built his entire personality around playing around tedious gameplay loops and then bragging about the fact that he's willing to go ahead and invest all the time in doing shit that nobody else wants to do.
The games should do nothing but compete for my attention by replacing every UI element with Subway Surfers and Family Guy funny moments because my childhood cognitive development died the moment my parents decided to raise me with a fucking iPad. Sorry about the attention span, take 3 big booms to make you feel better. Don't even give me a gacha game, just give me a virtual baby playmat instead, where I can hit random objects while shitting my pants and crying about anniversary rewards. Because if I'm totally honest with myself, that's all I really want. Not a handcrafted experience by passionate game designers or a fun challenge to overcome. I just want a distraction. Something to keep me occupied so I don't accidentally start contemplating my meaningless existence on this godforsaken earth.
This seems like the biggest self-projection I've ever heard in my life. Holy moly. Yeah, no, this is an actual crash out, brother. Yeah, this guy's crazy.
Now just take one moment to seriously ask yourself, who is more deranged here? Me for crashing out in a YouTube video for your entertainment, or you for logging into 50 billion gacha games every fucking day that you don't even like playing while having the audacity to demand every single one of those games respects your time when you don't even respect your own.
This guy's talking about respecting time and then insisted on the legitimacy of like a locked zipline system where to move them you would have to delete one and then proceed to walk over to the next location to put it down. And he's talking about respecting time. This has to be one of the most self-unaware people I've ever seen.
I don't want Arknights Endfield to be filled with people who don't even want to play Arknights Endfield!
And he's also wasting other people's time by killing their unit in co-op. But of course, right? His time is the only one that matters, ladies and gentlemen. His time, his enjoyment, his perception. It's the only thing that matters, once again, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck everybody else. That's the entire video.
Felt good to get that off my chest. That interview with Hyper...
I actually think this guy needs some sort of therapy. I'm gonna be entirely honest. It feels like there are some undisclosed issues under the surface that need to be explored further.
I cited earlier from G-Cores ends with this paragraph. Innovation is no longer just a creator's aspiration for their own work. It's something the market increasingly demands.
This is probably what Ryuku was like in his formative years.
Simply improving production standards is no longer enough to satisfy today's players. So whether you want to or not, if you aim to achieve something in the current market, you must create something that is uniquely yours. On paper, this sounds great. In their own words, they want to innovate and create something unique. But we must not judge merely based on words. We should be judging actions, because actions have consequences. When scores of gacha gamers who don't want good games and just want a babysitter are all now suddenly very excited about Enfield's new direction, I find that to be kind of alarming. So I voiced a dissenting opinion. What better time to voice that criticism than while the game is still in development, when it can still make important changes? All that being said, I have cherished Arknight for this long for good reason. I look forward to finding out what they've been doing since the beta, because if they make the right decisions before release, then on my life I will become the world's #1 hypergrifter.
I hope they turn this game into a full-fledged action RPG. I hope they literally do the opposite of every single thing this guy is asking. I hope they add blueprints to the game. I hope they make it as normie-friendly as possible. I hope they adjust the gacha pity. I hope they literally do all of these fucking things. Not even so... like the game becomes better, just so I can see the monumental, generational crash out that this guy will have after those updates are made. That's actually why I want them to go full on action RPG. Not even to make the game better, just so I can see this guy crash out again.
Full turboglaze, no brakes. I would be delighted to live in that timeline. But until then, I remain patient. When the servers open, I will be there no matter what. Ready to know life Arknights Endfield, ready to experience everything it has to offer.
I hope he plays it for 5 minutes and then quits. Straight up. I don't think there would be anything better for the community of this game than for this guy to play the game for a collective like 3 hours before quitting.
I just hope I will also be ready to cherish it for years to come.
Holy moly. I have literally never seen somebody this absurdly toxic before in my life. This has to be genuinely the most toxic content creator I've ever seen. Genuine. I don't even know why you would decide to start bragging about you actively griefing your teammates. I guess this is the community that we're working with over here when it comes to Arknights Endfield. This is the community that we're working with heading on into it. I'm gonna be honest. The future for this game is looking kind of grim. If this is what the community is looking like prior to release, holy moly. I think a lot of people are gonna try out the game, see retards like this, see the retards that are supporting retards like this, and then decide to stop playing it. Straight up. Wow. Wow. I am. Holy moly. I am mind blown, to be honest. This is something else. All right, well, that'll be that one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all think. Peace.